Good afternoon, Crilly, and I will be your host for the Course 2 Data Management. Today's going to look at the purpose of data file, who manages the data review process, and they're going to talk about reading the column headers, and they're actually going to look at a sample demo file. So what is the purpose of this data file that you're going to receive? Really, it's trying to obtain a one login experience. So if we're trying to attain that, we need to merge all user records across all applications. That's really what we're doing. Now the data file is basically, we're trying to merge account simulation. That's really what it is. And we're saying, listen, we're matching people based on last name and email address. So if your last name and address matches across all the applications that you're in, then your records will be successfully merged together. Now, on the data file, the exception tabs will display users who potentially could be merged but weren't. For some reason, the reason that they weren't, and we'll discuss that. Each exception tab, each tab reports a single problem with a single solution. So a single issue with a single way to handle it. Now, the data file will direct you to which application the user account lives. Okay, so some of you have 2 accounts, 1 account, 5 different application or accounts that you're dealing with. So this file, we'll see in a little bit later, will show us where all the accounts live and which application I need to go into to make that change. And the biggest thing here, changes must be made directly in the application itself, okay? We need to make sure that any changes that we do is directly in the application itself. Do not go in there and start changing or making your corrections within that data file. So let's manage the data. So manage the data really means the entity or person, okay, who manages, maintains, and supports the application. So the first question I always ask is this: if I'm having problems, who do I contact? You know, do I contact the Rick? Do I contact the BOCES? Or do I contact Mary, who is within the district? Basically, that is the best starting point. Because whoever you contact, if they're not the actual system admin, they probably know who is. Now, typically, the managed like IEP, 504, RTI, Medicaid, those what we call special education and intervention products. And BOCES, they typically manage ASOP, term, or My Learning Plan, OASIS, professional growth. Now, you got to be, because some of you out there, you actually have different BOCES handling different applications. So you might have BOCES A handling ASOP and BOCES B handling My Learning Plan. And again, what we want to do is get together and route the data file together and make sure that we're making the appropriate and correct changes. Review process. Let's look at it. It's a 3-step process, really. You receive the data. Frontline will send the data file to whoever the first requester is for your district. So that might be a Rick, that might be a BOCES, that might even be you here. And then you receive the district, the Rick, and the BOCES, you will all share the same data file. So we'll send it out once, and then you guys just share it. Now, when we sign up, it triggers that we have to send it out to you. We are desperately trying to keep up with the data file requests. So again, please bear with us. If you've requested, we're pulling information, and then basically we're pulling your files, and then we're sending it out to everybody who has registered. So again, any districts you're talking to, the very first thing is register for Course 2, and that will trigger the process for us to set out. And again, we're trying, if you've registered, we're really trying hard to get those files out to you as quick as we can. Now, that's the first thing. You receive the data. Now, the data reviewing, the cleanup. So the district, the Rick, the BOCES will work together through each exception tab. Now, the corrections, again, are done directly in the application. You must decide, here's the important thing, you must decide who controls the authoritative data. They call that the source of record, geeks do, and make sure all data matches, okay, what it is. Now, this authoritative data is typically an HR payroll system. So what do I mean by that? Oh, well, the last name says this. Well, really what we want to use in all of the applications. So it could be a maiden to married situation. It could be somebody that's a junior or a third. Do we want to put that in there? And so forth. So again, what we want to do is we want to say, listen, this is the authoritative data, the source of record. It's coming from our HR payroll, and we want to make sure the last name and email address matches across the board for all applications. Now, we're going to establish an onboarding process going forward, and we'll talk more about that in the third. But basically, a typical path is to hire somebody. You want to pass that information down to your IT department. IT department then creates the official district email address, and then they pass it on to all of the system admins. Again, you want to view this with a BOCES and a RIC because I don't want to interfere with the way you do it, or if you're actually pushing it from an external system, there's an integration process. None of that will change. But again, if you are manually entering in your new users, whether that be a district user, a sub, or an external agency or contractor for IEP, you have a specific process to make sure everybody's spelling the same last name and the email address is the same. So that's data review process. So let's talk about reading the column headers. Minutes. It's going to be what we call a quick view section. And basically, as you see right here in this little chart that we have, column H tells you whether or not the user is active or active within the system. So it's a quick way for you to be able to say, oh, is this user active or inactive? And then what we've done is we've broken it down into the different applications. So it would be this: the campus user, employee, organization user, and substitute. All of them really are 4 major roles within absence management. So familiar with ASOP, absence management, you know those are the 4 major roles. You got subs, you got employees, you got campus users, and you got org users. They all exist in 4 unique locations within the database, and that's why we've broken it down. So I through L typically is ASOP. Then you have PG, which is basically professional growth. That would be like My Learning Plan, OS. This example, and again, everybody's going to be a little bit different based upon the applications that your district owns. We actually have SEI. SEI, again, remember I said that was a Special Ed and Interventions. Basically, it's just another name for IEP Direct. IEP Direct, 504, RTI, ESA, Medicaid, all of those 5 models, they exist in our SE&I location. So basically, you go to, as everybody calls it, IEP Direct. You go in there, and it's in a single record. Okay, and into that record, it's now you're adjusting the permissions. These are different modules that you may or may not subscribe to, and you grant that particular user access into those modules. Now, as we're looking here, there's other users we have. We have recruiting and hiring. Some of you might have that. Central, which is Frontline Central. So there's different headers that we have. And again, all this information, I'll be sending this out to you, so it's not like you have to frantically write everything down. I'm going to send you the slide deck and also a cheat sheet. And here is that data column ledger. So basically, here's the abbreviations that we're seeing here in this middle column, and to the far right would be the application. What are the applications? And if there are multiple roles like absence manager, ASOP, you'll see them as well. So again, I'm going to send this slide deck out to you. That way you can review it. So at this point, the best thing to do is to go into a demo of what the system or what an Excel spreadsheet really looks like. So this is it. This is the example. You're going to get one spreadsheet that contains every application your district subscribes to, whether that be you own it outright or you're going through a BOCES or a RIC. So raw data tab, it just says, hey, there's everybody that exists ever in any of your applications. we're going to run through the simulation where we're going to merge everything, and that's just your raw data tab. Next, you'll have your counts, these are your errors. So this would be my count to say, hey, I have 8 issues in the duplicate name, 6 in emails, 3 in no emails, and 8 under the duplicate apps. And again, we're going to go into each one of these. So look, duplicate apps. So here's my basic information. Like I said, at column H, we're telling everybody, are you active? And then from column I over to a certain spot will be the application breakdown, the quick view of all the applications. So let's look at these situations. This is the dupe names. So basically this is saying, I found the same person. I think it's the same person. However, I would love to merge them, but I can't because they're missing email address or the email address is off. So in the scenario, let's look at Chad Nichols. Now, I just want you to be aware the first name does not get together. So, I mean, like for me, I'm James. My legal name is James, but everybody calls me Jamie. So, you could have me in application 1 as James, and application 2 as Jamie, and application 3 as Jim. So, but as long as my last name is spelled correctly in all 3 of them, and my email address is the same, the system will merge me together. So again, the first name isn't as important. It is the last name that's most important. So we're going to look at the first one, Chad Nichols. So I got Nichols here. I got you on the last name. Now, again, for me to merge, I need a match on the email address. So I'm looking here. Oh, okay. Well, I got a missing email address, and I got, it looks like a district email address. So what do I have to do? Well, I have to put in an email address, and then the system can properly merge this user. So I'm just looking across. Okay, they're active. Okay, where do they exist? Campus user, so that's an ASOP. SE, again, that's term for IEP Direct, and I've got RTI here as well. So again, this section here, all the SE and I products, they're all one record. Again, or not you've turned on that module for that particular user or not. So what would I do? So if I were doing this, this is exactly what I would do. I would take the spreadsheet, I go in here, this is their email address. I would copy the email address right from here, and then I would log into Absence Management, the campus user account. I would go there and paste. I would put this email right into the email address. And then I would do the exact same thing. I would log into IEP Direct, find the user, and paste this email address right in there. Now, why do I say paste? Because every counts, every character, every keystroke, every space, every special character is matched. It needs to be the exact match. So for me, the easiest thing, whether it be a last name or an email address, rather than me trying to type it out and say, oh, did I type that correctly? What I'll do, I'll just click on the field because I know this is correct here, copy it, and then paste it directly in the application or applications need to be. So once I do that, once I paste in the district email address in the campus user, and it looks like IEP and RTI account, good, I am done. So what do I do? Now, this is the only thing I really do within the file itself. Because remember, changes are never, ever made within the file. They are made directly in the application record in which you find them. But for this, I mark things down, because if I step away, then I come back to this, at least I know where I left off. So I will add like a column in here, and just for me to be able to put a little X there and say, okay, I took care of Nicholas. You don't have to, but the only thing is, please do not make any changes within the data file itself. We can't reload the data file. So that's scenario number 1. Let's look at scenario number 2. We got Sally Jones, okay, last name matches. Oh, we got a personal email and a work email. So all I need to do is combine or the other. So today I'm looking here, okay, I got the personal email is typically a sub, in which it is, you know, sub, and Sally right here is an employee. So this is what I would do. I would go into Sally's substitute record and basically copy and paste the district email address into her substitute record. That way, When the system merges the accounts, Sally Jones will be merged together. Again, because what we're doing is we're using the district email address. So number 2, and then how we would resolve that. Look at scenario number 3. We got Marsha Williams. He doesn't have an email address, so the system has no idea how to. So at this point, again, I'm looking. So I have an employee record there, and in the second line, I have a professional growth, my learn plan, and an RTI account. So again, what I would do here, I would go into maybe Active Directory. I would find her email address, her district email address, and then I would go in and paste it into these 3. There are 3 because you got a campus, you got a My Learning Plan, you got an RTI account. These 3 distinct records. Again, once I do that with the email address, that will be taken care of. Lastly, I got Bill Stevens. As I'm looking here, okay, I got an email. Okay, but this is it. I'm missing an email. Now, however, look here. It's inactive. So, these tabs, okay? When you're looking at dupe names, dupe emails, no emails, these 3 tabs right here, what I would like to do is filter at the inactive, okay? Because active, we're going to merge them anyways. We've retired, and we don't want to be seeing them. So, again, what I would do, again, for the dupe names, dupe emails, and no emails, I would take out the and filter only for the active, and then focus my energy there. Now, if you want to go back later and worry about the inactives, because in this case, I want to associate or tie Bill's inactive sub-record to his working employee record, you definitely can do that. Now, if you do that, what will happen, Bill won't see the sub-record until you activate it. So it's kind of there in the background until you reactivate his account, then he'll be able to see it at login. But right now, he wouldn't be able to see that. So at that point, again, what I do is I just inactivate, or I take from the filter all the inactive. We only see the actives. So that is the dupe name. So in I've got the same name, but I have different email addresses. So let's do emails. Now this is the exact opposite. I found the exact same email address, but for some reason the last name is off. So let's look at this. Scenario number 1. So I got J. Johnson. I got, look here, Johnson to the 3rd. Okay, so this is a case where, again, I got one record, and that's the campus user record, is putting my someone at the end of the 3rd, and then I got another, the employee account and absence management as well, that did not. So what do you do? At this point, I would say the HR payroll system say, oh, it says the 3rd, so then I would just go here, copy this, and I would then paste it into the employee record in absence manager. And James Johnson, the 3rd, will merge together. So let's next. Again, same email, but, oh, wait a minute, I got a Taylor. This is a maiden married situation, okay? So again, Beth got married, and now her name switched from Taylor to Taylor-Win. Again, what did HR payroll system say? Oh, well, it's the married version. Well, then that's what you want to have. So again, I would copy the last name and paste it into, let's look. Oh, it's a PG account. So her PG account has her maiden name, but if you look here, okay, so then her correct last name, we put that in IEP Direct. So we could just copy this and paste directly into the last name field. Last, we've got a situation for Stan Harper. Now, these are unique situations because if you look here, they're both active. Okay, and one's an employee and one is a sub. So in this scenario here, we're looking at why do you have an employee listed as a sub at the same time? Now, it could be a half day. I work half the day and I sub half the day. If that's it, perfectly fine. You want to make sure the last names match, the emails match, and then the system will merge together properly. However, son, okay, I use Stan as a substitute sometimes when I can't find somebody. So maybe he's in 5th grade, and there's teachers within the 5th grade block. And when one of the teachers is out sick and we can't really get a sub, I use Stan to fill in sometimes during his prep period. So what I am a substitute, again, only I use Stan. Stan really doesn't have access to this account, so he doesn't even know it even exists. As the secretary at the school or what have you, I know, and so whenever I need Stan, I'll just put Stan during that time. And again, this is when I don't have a substitute to fill in for somebody within the 5th grade block that we work in. So I would just leave it here. So as this, no actions required really. So Stan would not, the system would not merge these two accounts together. Okay, I got the asterisks right here. Basically, I use the special characters, these 2 asterisks, to denote that everyone in the district knows if you see 2 asterisks in front of the last name, don't touch them. They're really a teacher that only in which the school that they attend is able to use them as a substitute. So if that is the situation that you have here, just leave it the way it is. It will come up and quote-unquote an error because you've got the same email address, but in this case, you just leave it alone because, again, I don't want Stan to have access to that substitute record. Again, then all I would do is go into the substitute record of those 2 asterisks, and then the system would be able to match them together. Now, SS sign-on. Now, technically, we are moving to a single sign-on, which basically is a generic term to say, listen, you're going to have one single sign-on that will grant you access into N number of applications. So, but when I say single sign-on, I really mean the district single sign-on. So your Google ID, your Microsoft ID. Now, right now, we're postponing that. So we're not upgrading with the district SSO. It's just our time frame is too short. We need to get up and running. But what we need to do is if your district decides, you know what, in the future, in January, you can start requesting from us that you want to be upgraded. Well, why don't you prepare now? So if I know I have Google ID, I want to upgrade to Google ID sometime in 2020, let's make sure that the email addresses match Google or Active Directory for Microsoft. It doesn't matter what, but make sure the emails match. And then also, listen, you can only have one existence of that user within a whole frontline application, because when you're talking about using single sign-on from your district's perspective, it's in this one email address from the is making a call into the frontline database and must find this exact email address. If it finds multiple in the frontline systems, that's going to cause an error, and they won't be able to connect. So again, if you're going to use SSO, you really want to look at this dupe emails and make sure that I'm with email address listed once on this file, because if I'm listed multiple times, then we've got to make some adjustments here, and we'll talk about those adjustments a little bit later. Is or second to last, is the no email. Now, the no email is just saying, listen, this is a person that we do not have their email address. So if you're familiar with absence and the substitutes, you probably don't have substitutes email. You should have district people's email. So I filter out all inactives. I leave it at actives. And this is my general rule. If the district employee, like in these is right here, I'm going to fill in their email address because I know it. I definitely know it. Now, if they are a substitute or they're an external contractor or IEB Direct, I have their emails because it's very probably for me to go and track those emails down. Okay, so the emails and for this file, for the no email tab, I'm concerned about district users, active users. I'm going to find the email address and I'm going to put it in, because here's the thing: if missing your email address here, and you have other accounts and other applications, guess what? That's half of the equation that the system uses to merge your accounts together. So you definitely want to have email addresses for your straight employees. Again, substitutes at this point, substitutes and external contractors, agencies, IEP Direct, external users, we're not going to worry about them because, again, we don't have access to those email addresses. That is the no email. The last tab that we have right now is the dupe apps. And what this is saying is this: I cannot have duplicate records within the same application. The system will go, well, which one do you want me to use? Well, of course, use the active one because one's inactive. Well, that's great, but what happens if someone inadvertently activates the inactive account? Now that throws the system into an error state. So what I said is, listen, to eliminate those type of problems, to make sure that they are unique, and we'll talk about that in a few seconds. So let's look at this. Now, here's the exception to the always active filter. When you dupe apps, which is the last tab, you all want to see both active and inactive. I can't stress that enough. So in the dupe apps, active and inactive. Okay. The other tabs, we just filter for active. When we're talking about the dupe apps, we want to see both active and inactive users. So let's look at Joan Apple. So here again, column H, she's 3 lines, active, and so I'm looking absence. So any user within absence or ASOP, use many instances as you want. So you have as many employee roles as you want, or many sub, and so forth. So absence or absence management in ASOP is the only exception to that duplicate rule. You can have as many as you want. But any other application where you can only have one instance of yourself. So I already know in ASOP, the problem's not going to be in ASOP or absence management ever in these dupe app tabs. But again, I can exist multiple times in absence. So that leaves me with the other applications. So let's look at Joan App. Look at that. PG, My Learning Plan, she has 2 active records. Okay? So this would do. I would find the one record that she really doesn't need, and I would, number 1, inactivate it. Number 2, okay, you would stop it inactivating. What we've got to do is once you've inactivated, because it's still the same match for the last name email it. You want to get last name with the application itself. I'm going to do the change here in this file so you can actually see it. But you're going to go ZZ. So I find the duplicate record, in case Joan does not need. I'm going to deactivate it. As I'm deactivating it, I'm going to go into the last name, and I'm going to put ZZ in front of it. I'm going to do the exact same thing in the email address. I'm going to put ZZ in front of the email address. Now, by putting ZZ, it completely makes this Joan Apple this one record. So now the system says, oh, okay, well, I only have one instance in PG because it's Apple, and at the ZZ Apple, I don't know who she is, so I'll just skip over here. Oh, but I got another Apple here with and absence management. So at that point, the system will be able to merge these 2 records together because, again, this one that we inactivated, the duplicate one, has the ZZ Apple and has the ZZ email address. Now, email addresses here, make sure you put the ZZ in front. Don't put it at the end. The system may bark at you saying, hey, there's no such thing as .NET-ZZ. That doesn't exist. That extension doesn't exist. So you want to put the ZZs in front of whatever it is, last name or email address. So that first one. So we got a dupe scenario in My Learning Plan. So let's look at the next one. Higgins. Ooh, inactive record. Now again, inactive, they mean something because I got to get rid of the inactive ones if they're not supposed to be there. So okay, so I go across. Oh, it's an user. It's an ASOP. You can have as many as you want, so I can really disregard that. I'm still focusing here. So as I go across, SEI, IEP. This is telling me that I have a duplicate EP record in the system. Now, how do I find that? Now, the quick view here will only give me yeses for active records. If there's an inactive record, we don't put any data here, okay? How do you find it? So what I do is anywhere in the row, I could be on active, I could be in the next column on the right of that. Basically, I put my cursor there, and then I go holding the control key down on my keyboard. I hit the right arrow button, and that will jump me across. Hold the control key and hitting any of the arrow buttons really will basically, in an Excel spreadsheet, jump any blank columns, or depending on which direction you're going, and then we'll stop at the next cell as information. So in this case, at a Higgins here. So, S state, that basically means it's IEP Direct. Okay, and we're going to give you documentations that actually is going to explain, okay, what the verbiage is for these headers. So on an inactive account here. So let's notice these are all the modules. So this is the account itself. Remember how there are different modules that you just turn on and off depending on what we want to give to that particular user. So yeah, this is system IEP, 504, RTI. So this literally breaks down the individual modules. Now, we don't necessarily have to do that because, again, Walker contains all the modules in and of itself. It's got two Jackie. And again, so this is quite easy. If it's already inactive, it's quite easy. I go to the application, I look up and find the inactive user, and at that point, what do? Again, I go back to the ZZs. ZZs, and again, the email address. Put Z there. Now, again, that will do is that will say, hey, these are completely two different people, and also completely two different email addresses. So the system then is free to take this active Higgins and merge it with, I believe it was the campus user account. So again, you want to do the changes directly in the application itself, not on my spreadsheet. So at this point, to get back, I hold the control key down again and hit the left arrow button, and that will bring me over to the next bit of information, and then I can hit my arrow key over and get to the very, very front. So again, with scenario 2 where we have Jackie Higgins, we have an active account with an active account. Now here is Richard Smith. Now as I'm looking at Richard Smith, wait a minute, inactive. Let's just say Richard retired or he left the district. So in those cases where the user has inactive records, no active records, you can just disregard that. So the user has inactive records, disregard that. However, if the user has active and inactive records, like scenario here for Jackie, we've got to take care of that inactive record. But again, if all are inactives, at that point, you can just disregard that because they're going to log in, because Richard left the district, so he's no longer part of the district. So that's a data file in and of itself. So again, all the tabs. So the dupe, just to dupe names, dupe emails, no emails, filter on active. Okay, that'll be the quickest way to do this. But for the dupe app, you to pay attention to everything. And I'm telling you, if you don't take care of the dupe apps situation, the system will not merge these people together. So we've got to resolve that. Except, again, the individuals with only inactive records. They only have 2, 3, 4 inactive records, and that's it. No active records. You can disregard those. So at this point, I'm going to turn to our chat questions. We've got a lot of chat questions. Also, there's a Q&A button as well. So you can just either the chat or you can go Q&A. And I'm basically going to read from top to bottom the questions. I'm going to read out the questions, and then I'm going to give out the answers. So our end users are already getting the notice to update to their username password when our go live date is 12/10. So Jamie situation, if you want to, send me an email and we can talk about that. Let me do another one. Question, Julia, does this include Arena. And no, it does not. We just purchased that recently. So that would be part of the upgrade. You're going to upgrade your absence management, My Learning Plan, IEP Direct, and so forth. And what's going to happen is you're going to log in like you always have for eDoctrina. Eventually, we're going to merge them to the point we're just not there yet. Substitutes have to have their email and last name as this. Now, Nancy, this is a great question. People are confused here. The matching, I'll just talk to this part. Matching last name, email address, okay, is only applicable within your organization. We match last name, email addresses across organizations. So if you have a sub, a multi-district sub, just say me, you're not going to match Crilly and my email address with your district to the next district to the other 5 districts, okay? You're only going to use my email address and last name within our district. So if I'm multiple applications within our district, then it's so important to have the last name, email address. However, for these multiple district subs, you probably don't have an email address, and that's okay, okay? So the multi-district situation already exists, even with the platform. You know, since the very beginning, substitutes have been able to go into what we call the multiple district sub feature. And what this system is doing is matching the last name and the phone number. Now, this is for substitutes only, matching across multiple organizations, okay? So if the last name, my first name, okay, and James to Jamie really matters here, okay? James to Jamie really matters. So if my first name, last name, and my phone number match as a substitute, the system will recognize me as a multiple district sub, okay? But that, again, that only applies for first name, last name, and phone number. What we're talking about here is actually a little bit different, and you don't have to have a substitute's email address, at least for them to upgrade. Now, I use that exceptions, always exceptions to rules. So if I pre-exist, if I already exist in the system before we upgrade, okay, I am going to use my 10-digit phone number, 4 or 5-digit PIN, and I'm going to upgrade. However, going forward, and we'll see this more in Course 3, if I'm brand new, you've created me after we've upgraded, then it's required that every user you put in the system who want to have web access needs an email address. So again, we'll talk about that later, is, hey, you might have to change the way you accept applications from substitutes. Because, again, before you could just say, hey, give me a phone number, you know, and we're fine. Today, we need a phone number, again, because if you want to receive those outbound calls, but you also need an email address for brand new people because we want them to have web access. We're going to be sending invitations to brand new users, not to our existing ones, but to brand new users. So that's a great question there. There's a lot of meat in that answer. It all depends, you know, looking at it from and from how you're logging in. Where do I get my file? We'll send that to you. It's a secure data link. Process your file, and we'll send it out to you. Yeah, we have a copy of the PowerPoint. Absolutely. So you're going to get the recording. You're going to get the PowerPoint presentation as well. For you to tell us who in our organization will get the file, we do not who registered first and has gotten it yet. At that point, if no one's gotten it, through again, we're a couple days behind in the request, so we're working diligently. Yeah, sometimes if you're like, hey, well, who sent it to us? We are keeping track of who we sent it to and on what day. So also, if you ask us, we can give out the name and the email address of the person that we sent it to. Do we get sheets as we make corrections? That's a great question, Mike. You will get 2. Okay, you one at the beginning, okay, which would be now, and then you'll make all your corrections, and once you're like 90% there, you're like, okay, I'm going to request a second one. So you get 2 pulls, if you will. We'll send it out. At the point you're like, yeah, it's perfect. But you just have to request it from me. So once you get your initial one, make all your changes, and once you feel pretty good, then you can request to me, and we can pull that out. Good question. Cases where there are two Sally Jones and they should not be. This is a great question. Yes, there are cases where Sally Jones just happens to be a popular name where you live. And, however, it's the email addresses that will differentiate Sally Jones A from Sally Jones B. So that's what we want, especially if you're talking district. Technically, every district user should have a unique email address. It's kind of like your social security number, if you will, for within the district, is your email address. You shouldn't reuse email addresses or shouldn't use the same ones. So if Sally Jones happens to be a district employee, her email address will be different. Okay, now, Sally Jones is a substitute. That gets a little harder. One way you can look at it is, okay, what about the phone number? That'd be another way. But again, what I would try to do at that point is make sure that the email addresses is really the differentiating factor between both those Sally Jones. Good question. But you need to match email and data in each separate application. What happens first in each system is managed by somebody different. We all have to work together. Yes, you would have to work together. No one has admin rights to change. Okay. And again, Shelley, a number of other districts are in your same situation. I'm from Pennsylvania. Each school district owns their own applications. So when they make the change, it's somebody within the district that they have to contact. Whereas, New York's a little bit different. You have different entities managing these on behalf of the district. You're absolutely right. So hey, Beth is the person at the BOCES or the RIC that's managing the account, and you have the file. You would just send it over to Beth and say, listen, you and me, Beth, have to work together to make sure that the data is correct. Because, Beth, I can't make those changes. With the BOCES, you own it, and you control it. So we're just going to have to coordinate, because this is the key here. This is the key. If you make changes, okay, with any applications, and let's say you're using an external payroll or HR system to feed data back into the system, if you make changes that do not coincide with your payroll system, guess what's going to happen? You're going to change it today. Oh, wait, we're going to get a process from that external system, and it's going to override it, so that tomorrow you're back at square one. You want to make sure the corrections that you're making within the within the application matches the information if you have an external system pushing data into it. And basically, it would only be for ASOP or My Learning Plan. Those are the two applications that would accept external data to be pushed into it. Campus user and substitute, which one is ASOP? It's a great question. They're all within ASOP. These four categories: user, empty, organ user, substitutes. Those are the four major roles within absence management. So again, theoretically, could you have a campus user and a substitute? Absolutely. More likely, a campus user and an employee account, but theoretically, you could have a campus user and a substitute account. On some of these tabs to show the last time a user logged in. I'll suggestion where we have it from a perspective to get this thing up and rolling. It was really more for the last name and email address, but we can take that into consideration. Thank you. That's good. How do we know which My Learning Plan record to remove, since some accounts could have evaluations in each account? James, this is a great question. So if you don't, the easy thing is, okay, we duped a My Learning Plan account and there's nothing there. So that's easy, inactivate it. Now, you can, at that point, I can't reach out to My Learning Plan support. Okay, I have two Learning Plan accounts and they have different evaluations, because sometimes you're able to merge those records together. So instead of having two, they're merged down to one, and then that helps you. So in the case where you have that situation where you have historical data and you need it on both those records, and again, here's a thing and the user needs access to both. I guess that's the biggest thing, because you might say, well, you got historical data on account A and then data on host, but you know what? I really only use B now. So what you do is with A, just change the Z's. It still stays there. It's just that the end user, me, I wouldn't be able to access it because I'm accessing account information. But if you listen, he really needs to access both A and B, then work with My Learning Plan support team, and they'll be able to help you in those situations. Good question. I have members who have a created My Learning Plan account for the purposes for registering for conferences. Okay, this is what we can. These people are not listed in my active user. Will these users also have a chance to change their? This is an excellent question. So what we're talking about is My Plan and WebReg. Okay, a term that might be new to you. But WebReg basically is this. It exists because we want to present our library, if you will, out to the public. It doesn't necessarily mean they're people that for our district. So this is it's more for BOCES really, but districts can do it as well. But a BOCES will say, listen, here is our category or catalog of courses. What I would do, I don't belong to that BOCES, or maybe I do belong to the BOCES, but I'm really not a direct employee of that BOCES. Here is a major question. Okay, when you're talking about My Learning Plan or even WebReg, who created the account? That's the question. Who created the account? The actual end user in this question, it looks like it's the end user. So I'm just a user out here. I'm floating around. I say, oh, go to the BOCES website. Oh, these courses, that's cool. Let me create myself an account so that I can look at your catalog and accept. At that created my account, if the end user creates their own account, there's no impact. They will continue just like they did. They'll continue to use whatever credentials they created for that WebReg account. On the flip side, the district itself or the BOCES created the account on my behalf. And basically that would be like a district admin account or an instructor account. In situations, yes, I would be impacted, and I would have to upgrade that WebReg account to a Frontline ID. So that question, again, I always start with who created, and it basically tells me, do I have to upgrade? If the end user created it themselves, no upgrade. If the district created it on my behalf and then gave me the credentials to log in, I will have to upgrade. Great question. If we inadvertently inactivate a wrong account or fail to carry over one correct, what back to the user data from the link? Really no problem. I mean, if you inactivate the wrong account, you just go back in and reactivate it. If that's really what you're getting to, there's nothing there. Nothing changes. The upgrade doesn't change anything. So the upgrade, all it's doing is saying, listen, let's pretend it's a house. This house, you have a nice wooden door. You know what? But we're going to replace that with a more secure steel door. So that's really what the Frontline ID is. It's a more secure way to log in to access all your accounts. And oh, by the way, because you have more secure access, let's put all your accounts under one login. So they're not going into asaponline.com, mylearningplan.com, ap.com. You're going into one account, and from there you can app switch to any of the other accounts that you have. So there's nothing wrong. You're not going to lose any data. If you activate people, you're perfectly fine. So Campus User is the driver option that we will align other accounts with to determine if they should remain active, inactive, or be modified. You could use the Campus User account as being the driver, if you will, basically the driver of the last name and the email address. Absolutely, you can do that if that's what you decide to say. Listen, that's the most correct data in our system is what we put in for Campus User. Then absolutely, you could do that. When it's made after the upgrade to correct an error, such as a last name correction, will it automatically see that and merge the records? This is a great question, Michelle. It will. So what happens is this. Let's just say you create me. It happens to be my last name. So my last name has 2 L's instead of 1. So let's just say you created me and account 1 was an ASOP. You created me with 2 L's, last name, and my learning plan with 1 L. So since I'm logging in, I'm like, well, I can only really see 1 account. I'm only seeing my absence one with the 2 L's. That's the one I logged into. And oh my gosh, that's right. You go in today, right now, and you change in my learning plan it to 2 L's. So the options that you have here, and we'll go over this in course 3. But basically, if I need immediate access to that My Learning Plan, that other account, you have a way to basically bulk merge your users. And again, we'll go over that in course 3. Or every day at 8 a.m. in the morning, the system will go through its overnight process and say, hey, do we have any changes? Oh, here's this Crilly guy. Oh, he's got 2. Oh, wait a minute. He's got 2 L's. He matches it up. Boom. Let's merge together. So, again, it all depends on, do I need immediate access? If yes, then you can bulk merge on the Manage User Access page. If no, I can wait till tomorrow morning. That's fine. At that point, just leave the system. We'll automatically do it at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. It'll go through that process. And the next time I log in tomorrow, I'm going to see My Learning Plan along with ASOP. It's a good question. Post the link for requesting a data file. Oh, so basically you would just, I'm just getting an email address. You just let me know. I mean, if you haven't received the initial one, hold off because we're trying to work through that list. But if you're talking about, hey, I want my second one because we've made all of our changes, you would email me. Question about a data file. We're getting there. Let me tell if we have the mobile app. So the mobile app only be available once you've upgraded. Once your district has upgraded, then you'll be eligible for the mobile app. And again, it's only applicable right now for absence or ASOP and My Learning Plan. Really, My Learning Plan is very generic. It's basically I can clock in and say that I'm here to take this course. For ASOP or absence management, you can do a lot of different things. Create an absence on the fly, look at a daily report if you're a campus or an organization user. One day, we were thinking of going building. Can we do that? It's like a light switch. There's 12 of us in a room, and when you flip the light switch on, every one of us sees the light. So the upgrade would affect everyone at once. Can users ignore the message or prompt that users can be upgraded or merged? We're not sending any communication. So what's going to happen is when we launch after 1 p.m. one day, you just naturally go into the system like you normally would, and the system would prompt you. Now, I'll say this, since you asked the question, you get one shot at this, okay? So I go in there, I type in my credentials, and it says, boop, hey, let's create a frontline ID. Oh, my gosh, I got a virus or something. I close out of the window. Well, what happens is this. The system said, well, I guess they don't want to go that route, create their frontline ID. Now, I got to send them their invitation because when wait a minute, I think it was trying to upgrade. That's right. Now I go to log in again. I use my old credentials, my 10-digit phone number, 4 or 5-digit PIN. The system will say, listen, you try to upgrade, you couldn't, contact your system admin. And then you're going to have to, at that point, receive an invitation. So there's really no way you could ignore it, if you will. But the problem is you get one shot to upgrade using your old credentials. And again, if you ignore it, you close the window or something like that, the way now to upgrade would be through an invitation. And we'll cover that more in course 3. For who had My Learning MLP account in a previous district, but we haven't brought them over yet to our My Learning Plan account, will we be able to do that? So for the 10th, or records from the previous district no longer be available. The function, I would say this, I'm not an expert on My Learning Plan, So you may want to reach out to My Learning Plan support. But here's the thing. Nothing functionality-wise is going to change. Okay? If you could do X today, you're going to be able to do X tomorrow. The functionality, if you were able to do that, you would still be able to do that going forward. The only thing that's really changing is the way you access your accounts. But once you're in, it's all going to stay the same. I employ with 2 different jobs. How do I enter them in ASAP? Okay, this is a great question. So currently I have 2 different entries. So they would still be separate. So let's say I'm a janitor in the morning and a bus driver in the afternoon. So you have to create me separate within ASAP. Why? Because using skill matching, when I am a custodian, I need my custodian skill, and when I'm a bus driver, I need the bus driver skills. So do everything exactly the same. We know that the and the last name match. Because what's going to happen, the system is automatically going to merge my custodian and driver account together. So that when I log in, guess what's happening? I'm going to see both of them going forward. So everything, the setup is still the same. We just want to make sure that the last name and email address matches across applications, or in this case, same roles, same employee roles. Only, click on something. Ton of questions to highlight everything, and then it just jumped on me. There you go. Okay. If you only have access to personal growth, the data file you received, does it have all? Yes. The data file will have every application that your district has. Okay. Regardless if you individually have access to that or not. So yes, it is an all-inclusive data file. Is there a way to mass update all emails? And I would work with the support team to do that. Maybe you had a domain name change, and oh my goodness, in this case, My Learning Plan, we didn't. We need to update the domain name. But what you want to do is go out to My Learning Plan, ask them, and they can assist you. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability to self-serve like ASAP you would. You can pull a report, and then you can import a report in Absence Management ASAP. But My Learning Plan, you can't. So just work with the support team there. The notification letter template, I'm going to be sending that out. I thought I sent out, but I can send that out again to everybody. Also, when I send the information out, sometimes be careful. Our email server might block it for spam, and so look out for that. But I think I sent out the video, and also the notification packet. But if not, Deb, let me know and resend it out to you. So send the data file to the BOCES. It has been hard to coordinate. Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, there's nothing. We don't own the data either. So at that point, the only person, and we're twice removed. You're once removed from the data. It is your data, but somebody else is managing it. We're twice removed. So you at the district level would be the best person to contact the BOCES and work with them. Take for an email with the question to get a response. That's a great question. I get about 250 emails a day, if not. I really honestly I try to go through them. It's FIFO. I'm an old accountant, first in, first out as they come in. So I just go through all of the emails that I can. But I got 150 or 250 emails a day. I will try to get to your questions. ASAP, our users have personal emails, but in My Learning Plan and IEP, they would have a district one. Do you have a recommendation on which one becomes the new one used by all? That's a great question. Well, if they're different, they're not going to be blended together. Okay, got to get those emails blended together. Otherwise, you're going to have a match between My Learning Plan and IEP because they're their district, and then ASOP is floating out here by themselves because they have a personal email. Now, what's the case scenario? What happens? I'm going to log into ASOP probably, and it's going to say upgrade. Okay, I create my frontline ID and so forth. I'm going to log into either My Learning Plan or IEP, and then it's going to say, hey, you know what, you got to upgrade. Now, here's this thing. If a minute, I just did this the other day. If I already have or I've already updated and I type in these credentials, then the system will be able to merge those two together. But if I forget and I'm like, oh, okay, well, type in jcrilly, that's taken. Okay, well, I forgot I used it the other day, so I go jcrilly1, which is the normal response to everybody. At that point, I've got two instances. Okay, I got a frontline ID with jcrilly and a frontline ID jcrilly1 that actually goes My Learning Plan and IEP. Those together, and we'll talk about that in course 3. But the best thing to kind of cut it off before we get to the past, if you will, and I would say this: I would upgrade all of the email addresses in ASOP. If they're done, upgrade them to their district email address, because then that will allow the system to easily merge all three of those accounts. They're live with the holiday coming up. I'm concerned that it won't be enough to complete the process by the 10th. What's the worst case scenario? Here's the thing. I always tell people this. Listen, if you're controlling the data, I'll say this. If you control the data, it's a little bit easier. It's about 5 hours worth of your time. So if you can do hours, and that's those 3 hours is basically the training that we're doing right now. But 2 hours would be, okay, data cleanup, and then the notification. But the worst case scenario is this: I don't merge anybody. Okay, everybody has a different last name. Everybody has different email address. What is the worst case scenario? The worst case is if I'm in 3 accounts, I just have to log in 3 times. The first, create my frontline ID. The other 2 times, I'm going to say I have already updated. I'm going to use that frontline credential. That really is the worst case scenarios. I end up with 3 distinct frontline IDs, which is basically no different than what I am today. Okay. However, the thing is going forward, either you, and we'll see this in course 3, or I, the employee, can merge accounts together so that now I can blend everything down to one. How to use email address recover their account if they forget. Well, at this point, when you upgrade, you are required to put an email address in there. Okay, so when I upgrade to a frontline ID, so let's say I'm a sub and you don't have my email address. When I upgrade to that frontline ID, the requirements is a username, a password, and an email reset password. Okay, I will say this: the email reset password does not then populate my underlying substitute record. Okay, that's still blank. However, I have a manage user access page. See what that reset email is. So they can basically what I call self-serve. I go to the login page. Oh, I forgot my password. Boop. It's exactly an Amazon account or a Facebook account. If they forget their stuff, they wouldn't contact you, the IT department. They could self-serve. And Frontline's kind of getting in the 21st century. We're like, well, why should you always contact the district? You can do it yourself because you're doing that with every other login side of the district. So that password reset, they will have to provide an email address. Professional growth, what does it stand for? That's professional growth is our new terminology, if you will. That's the solution name. My Learning Plan, OA sound a little familiar. That's what it stands for. To the area data file for all our applications. I've received files, so it's hard to compare. Let's take this offline if you want to send me an email about that. But typically, what we do is we run it per district. All these files are ran at the district level because you have to really, you got to take care of the district information first, and that's the biggest thing. So that's why we send out the different files. If you have any employees who have changed their last name, can you still search them at all the previous? No. So Catherine, what happens is, our search mechanism goes on whatever is the current last name right now. If you changed it, then at that point you're going to have to search by that new last name. Just telling me we won't have ML, but my data says we do. How do I find? Let me know. Just email me and we can research that. Maybe you add it and then you churned. We call it churn, meaning you left. That's what happened, and your data file just has it. If that's the case, we'll just inactivate the people, and you can go through the file until we can actually remove it from your system. Can you use the credentials that you recently have now, or do they have to be different? That's a great question, Jacqueline. Here's the thing. If your current credentials now meet our requirements, then here's the thing. Substitutes and teachers, absolutely not, because they're using a 10-digit phone number, okay? The 10-digit phone number is way too easy. So at that point, we're not going to allow that. However, all of their applications, My Learning Plan, IEP Direct, typically you're using your email address. So what happens is when I log in, let's say I go into My Learning Plan, and my email address is my username, my current username. I type that in, my password. If my username and password are number one, and number two, they meet the criteria, then the system will default to the same username that I had for my old. Again, it all depends on where I'm in my username is unique. I might use J. Smith right now in my district, but it'll be unique within the Frontline universe. There's probably a J. Smith already floating out there, kind of like when you build your Amazon account or whatever. You might have to change it to J. Smith something else. So that's a great question. We try to use your existing credentials if, again, it's unique and matches our requirements. Maybe this, but how do we handle account management going forward? Yes, that'll be in course 3. I'll be let me tell you. I can spell app Frontline. Oh, I misspelled it. Oh gosh, can't spell today. There. It's with two. So now this URL, only use it once you've upgraded. Okay, upgraded. So I can't use that app.frontline education to upgrade because that URL is looking for a Frontline ID only. Now, once you've upgraded, you could use the app-specific ones like the ASAPOnline.com ones and MyLearning and so forth. But, once you've upgraded, you want to use that app.frontline education. I spelled my email address too. Goodness gracious. There we go. How does this affect SEI program that are not employees of the district? We have users outside locations. Okay, so at this point, your external users for IEP, they're going to have to upgrade too. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if it's state law or state requirement or what have you, but when you're talking about student data going forward, you're going to have a unique account for every user. So no longer can you have those generic logins. So Acme Agency, people can't be logging in under Acme Agency anymore. It's just the state does not want that anymore. So what we're asking people is that if you have an agency, you're going to have to, meaning the district, will have to create accounts for all those users within the agency. So it takes a little time. You'd have to reach out to them, say who are the people that are accessing IEP and what are accessing it for, because again, you want to tie it into the right people. So to get that information, you can create their account and give it to them, because again, we don't get, Frontline doesn't like it, but apparently the state, I think, is really, really pushing this, or the Board of Education for New York is really, I don't have all the detail there. I know our IEP support team do. However, from what I understand, I think it's been going on for 5 years. This has been coming down for 5 years down the pike. So again, your external people, they will. If I have an individual account, let's say I'm an external contractor and do have a personal account, it's the same for me as everybody else. I'll log in like I normally do. This one will say, hey, you know what? You got to upgrade. I'll upgrade now. Say I am a contractor for, let's say, 10 districts. I will upgrade with all 10 of those districts using the same username and password. So at the end of the day, when I get in, I'm going to have the ability to apps or org switch, as we call it, between all 10 districts. So no longer will I have to remember, this username for District A, District B. It's one universal login that will rule them all. So there's out with their one shot. Do they have the manual invite to them sent? That at that point, Michelle, you would actually send that to them. So if you error out, actually send that information to the user themselves. Again, that's course 3. Sorry, are we to send out? Did you say that you email the notification, the notification to your end users? That would be sent from you as the district. Again, whether that be at the district, the BOCES, the RIC level, however you want to handle that. We don't send any notification out. We will provide you the notification information, and then you'll send that out. Once the upgrade is done, what will happen with the email? Just what the email name changes that get pushed through. I am trying to figure out once the upgrade, nothing changes. I mean, the name email changes will be pushed through. So the integration, if you're talking integrations, current integrations, that'll continue to work. Can the account before we'll go live, I'm assuming, for IEP Direct? Yes, you can. Definitely do that. That way they have their credentials. That way, at that point, they can use the credentials that you give them right now to upgrade. Credentials to 2 BOCES, will they become? Yes, and that's the major advantage here. As we upgrade all of the districts, what's going to happen is all of our logins that we've been managing will eventually boil down to one universal login to rule them all, and then what we'll be able to what we call org switch between everything. So we have other questions. Oh my gosh, it's almost an hour and a half. It only has one product, BOCES for PD. Are we merging the information for both, even though that we do not? No. That's a great question, Kristen. You're only going to manage the user data for the applications you own, and in this case, for I'm assuming again. And here's the thing: for management, who manages it? If your BOCES is managing that, at that point, so. Again, without really seeing the information, I don't know if it's a WebReg account you're really talking about, or if it's an actual My Learning Plan account and they administer it for you. If it's a WebReg account, then no upgrade. However, if it's the BOCES managing the professional development on your behalf, it's really for your district. You still have to merge the accounts together. Please, this is a great question. The file that you're getting does not contain student information system. Okay, so this is all your employee information, hiree information. Main email accounts in the Insights platform. You can have as many as you want. Here's the thing: is if you're trying to merge like users, you want to have the same email account across the board. Okay, so if you have older, quote unquote, by date hire, older users with an older email address, and then the newer hires with the newer ones, do that exists. That's perfectly fine. However, the older domain names must match across the applications, and for the other, their new ones must match across. Now, if you go SSO, Google ID or you go, Microsoft ID, you may have to change that. I don't know. But at fine purposes and for Frontline ID, you're perfectly fine. You can do that. External users only log in directly to the application still after the merge? Yes. So logging in, though, to the same place. Sub only log into ASOP will. Now, the thing is that universal URL that I put in the chat, the app.frontlineeducation.com, that's universal. So you can, whether you're sub, external user, or a district user, you can use that URL to actually access anything. All their permissions, yes. So this does not affect any permissions. So if I could do X today, I can still do X tomorrow. The only difference is I'm going to go through a Frontline ID to get to be doing X as opposed to whatever ID I may be using today. Would it be more helpful for some of these tabs to show the last time? Again, that's a last time on can take into consideration. Now the system doesn't pull last time just because we just don't know. Not every system tracks that. So that we didn't pull it. What user data from the legacy? What effect on the legacy system? Not sure what we're asking there, Susan. I do apologize. Nothing will change from a legacy system. Everything stays the same. If they're asking the initial email, or does the district would send out the initial email to say, hey, we're going to upgrade next week. Let's just say you send it out 1 week ahead. If a person has 2 inactive records returns to the district and the last names and the emails match, should we activate both records? Yes. Yes. Just say Bob said he's gone, he's leaving, he's going down to Florida, and then Bob decides to come back. Now his 2 accounts, you've activated them, but in both accounts, his last name, email match. Yeah, absolutely. At that point, you would just reactivate those accounts. Now for him, you're going to have to send an account invitation out for him. Okay, you'll learn that more in course 3. But absolutely. Go about requesting data. So I just I posted my email address. Does this affect users of SEI program that are not employees of the district? We have measures outside locations that we create accounts for. Preschool, school age agencies working with their students they'll still be able to access. Here's the thing. Again, not Frontline necessarily pushing this, but I think it's the state or the education board putting that, hey, because you're dealing with student information system, we want to make sure that I'm not getting access to the whole keys. If I should only see Sally and Bob, I only see Sally and Bob. But agencies see Sally, Bob, Henry, Steve, Frank, whatever. I shouldn't be seeing the entire list of them. That's really what their main concern is. So, again, individual account, I'll just log in. If you don't break it down, okay, they'll still, those 10 people that are for the agency, they'll break down the agency login. But again, we strongly recommend that for security purposes, you break everything down and that you break it down today as opposed to waiting to it later, because then it will never get done. And of course, again, I don't know, but the Board of Education is really pushing that they need to be separate. All permissions yes, they will keep all the permissions that they have. So again, nothing really changes. Nothing in the house changes, if you will. The only thing that really changes is the front door. We're making it more secure to get into the house. And by the way, instead of going into 4 different houses, we're going to have houses together. So you're living in a mansion at this point now. Door, and you have 4 little mini houses all together, but you access all 4 of them through one door. Okay. Questions? Well, appreciate your time. I know we went over a little bit, but when there's questions coming in, I like to answer them. I will be sending this out. I also be sending out the data file, or the slide deck as well. So you should have that within the next day or so. So again, we're trying to get those data files out to everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. Again, there's over 100 people that was just here today alone. So there's a lot of people trying to get their information. So again, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either me or any of the support teams. And look forward to talking to you tomorrow for our Course 3 Manage User Access. Take care.